According to all aerodynamic laws, the bumblebee cannot fly because its body weight is not in the right proportion to its wingspan. But ignoring these laws, the bee flies anyway.
How much has Lionel Messi pushed you to become a better player? And the second part of that question, would you say that you two are the best players of all time, better than Pele, Maradona?
I'm pushed to myself. I don't need other players to push myself. I just work since I was in sporting, so I push myself all the time to be the best. As I say many times, in my opinion, I'm the best because I think we have to think like that, not just in my job, but you have to think in your job you are the best reporter. And I'm thinking like that. If I'm not thinking like that, I'm not going to be stronger than I think I am.
Get back to fucking work. It's time to get back to work. Stop hearing yourself talk. Get off the podcast. Don't be on social media too much. Cut out all the fucking noise. Get back to the fucking mental lab, because that's where the knowledge came from.
I think people struggle a lot with the concept that something can be both painful and empowering. It's this hurts, therefore it's bad. When taking full accountability of your life with all of the deficiencies that you have may be the most painful thing that you do when you look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is my fault. But in saying, this is my fault, those are also the first two steps of progress, because it's my fault, not anyone else's, which means it's my responsibility and my action that can change that.
You know, it's funny because the answer, it lies in the truth that we least want to face. Because if you're truly honest with yourself, you know what you need to do. You already know the changes that you need to make. You don't want to face them. You don't want to face them because it's so much easier to relish in ignorance and pretend you're not successful because you don't know or you can't. But let's be honest, that's not true, is it? You're a smart person. You do know. You know exactly what to do, but you don't do it because maybe you don't believe in yourself. Maybe you're so scared of what happens if you actually win. But all I can say is let that shit go. All that chatter in your mind. All you gotta do is take that first step. And don't focus on a year or 2 years or 5 years from now. You don't know where you're gonna be. Just put one foot forward in front of the other.
A lot of people were surprised when they found out that you've been signing your name as Champ 2011. How did that come about?
I believe in the law of attraction, and I believe that that you can speak things into existence. And I believe that when you know where you're going and you know what you want, the universe has a way of stepping aside for you. And me signing my signature with Champion 2011 on it, it can't hurt me. It can't hurt me. It could only help me to believe it even more. So yeah. I mean, it works for me.
The unfulfilled potential is the story of most people's lives.
It is. And it could have been the story of mine. And I tell a lot of people go, what's your biggest fear in life? And my biggest fear, honestly, was, let's say this. Let's say, I don't care if you believe in God or not. I don't care. So let's just play a game with me. Let's say you're God. And we have a big fucking long line of people. And I made it to heaven. I'm 75 years old. I'm 300 pounds. I made it to heaven. I worked for Ecolab my entire life, spraying for cockroaches. That's what I did. But I'm dead. I'm in heaven now. And you're judging us all now. So we're in line. We're all sitting there in line. You have Adam Brown. He has a big board up, and you're talking to Adam Brown about his life. And you rip it down, and I'm next in line, David Goggins. I see my name, and I see all this shit, and God goes, hey, you say, read this, man. And I'm reading this list, and I'm seeing 182 pounds, Navy SEAL, Ranger School, motivational speaker, changing lives. Okay, man, pull-up record, all this shit. And I'm like, that's not me, man. And God looks at me and says, that's who you were supposed to be. And my biggest fear, I visualize some crazy shit. My biggest fear is that one day I'm gonna reach a judgment of my life. Something's gonna judge me for what the fuck I was supposed to be in life. And what I want now is that whoever's judged me up there, I want them to have a board and them up there right now getting their pen out. Because, this person who judges you is supposed to know everything. Supposed to know from the time you're dead to the time time you're born, time you're dead. I want this person to be up there to be like this, up there writing more about me, saying, fuck, I know you could do that. I know you can do that. So I want to impress whatever the fuck is up there. Whatever's going on in life, I want to go up there and not have anything left on the table. I want to drain my soul of every fucking bit of person I am.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. If I had never dropped out, personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. And in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the 2 of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. And then I got fired. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I'd let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down. I'd been rejected, but I still loved what I did. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. My third story is about death. If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. For the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. There is no reason not to follow your heart. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Everywhere we look, everywhere we turn on the TV or scroll through the internet, we are inundated by people who refuse to take responsibility for the life that they have created. And I got bad news for you. There's nobody coming. There's nobody coming to save you. There's nobody coming to help you. A knight in shining armor isn't going to ride in and save you. You are the only one that's going to be able to save you. And all this time, you point your finger and you say, I can't do that because I was born here. Or I can't do that because I have this issue. Or I can't do that because they made fun of me. And you know what's going to happen? Nothing. You're going to get more of the same, You're going to get laughed at more. You're going to be ashamed more. You're going to be frustrated more. And you're going to really regret at the end of your life that you put off taking responsibility for yourself and building yourself into what could be. And when we look around at the world and we look at all the problems and we look at all the chaos, we have to take responsibility for ourselves for creating it. You're not living the best life that you want to live. You're not the person you want to be. You're not the person the 8-year-old you wanted to be. And I bet you're not even taking steps to become that person, are you? And that's what's wrong with the world. That's what's wrong with this country. We have a bunch of people that want to point fingers and defer responsibility off to anything and everything except the one thing that can change their entire lives. And that's looking in the fucking mirror and saying, fuck you, man. You did this to me. You made me this way, and I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to fix it by controlling all the things I can control. I'm going to control what I eat. I'm going to control what I drink. I'm going to control how I move. I'm going to control the information I put in my brain. I'm going to control how I treat people and who I surround myself with. And if you control those things, you are now in the driver's seat to create what it is you've always known that you were here to create. Because you always do know.
Prepared to defend your opinion, usually physically, especially outside of the internet world. You don't have an opinion at all. If you can't defend your ideas, if someone comes to you and says, I disagree with you, and you're afraid of that person, well, then you're not going to have any ideas different than what the Matrix wants you to hold. It takes a lot of bravery to stand up and say, I don't care, I know I'm right, despite the fact that the whole group or society or the consensus is saying this, because you're going to pay for that at some point. I know we live in a world now where physical confrontation and physical violence alone is not enough, but I still think it's intrinsic inside of the human condition. When you know that you are capable in that realm, you're more likely to stand up against the system. But you can't have an opinion if you don't defend it. If you can't defend it, if a guy comes up to you and says 2 + 2 is 5, and he can beat the shit out of you, I mean, maybe you'll end up a bloody pulp, or maybe you'll give up sooner, but sooner or later, 2 + 2 is going to equal 5. That's the reality of the world. So
yeah. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, just to talk about the childhood thing, I understood from a young age I had to stick up for myself and defend my ideas, and my ideas were always different, and I was always an outcast, I guess, to a degree, and that certainly played a part later on in my life, because it's been very easy for me to look at the programming the Matrix is trying to push down my throat and just say no.
And go right on past the end point. When that happened, everybody stopped talking, heads would stop dropping, and I start taking fucking souls. At that time, I knew what happened in their minds. They were living off the hope factor. They hoped the instructors would stop running. They hoped the water was never cold. They hoped the weather was fucking good. I don't live off that hope shit. I wish the water was cold. I wish them motherfucking instructors keep on fucking running. I wish for fucking rain. When the ending is unknown and the distance is unknown, that's when you know who the fuck you are.
Me alone in the gym, me alone in the mirror, me alone in my head. No one did it for me. I worked for it, and I'm never going to let someone else take that from me.
Your dreams is a lonely, solitary, scary, dangerous pursuit. You can't wait for somebody to think you can do it. And it's like, because they don't think you can do nothing they can't do.
Exactly, bingo.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's a lonely, scary, dangerous pursuit, and you got to be willing to risk everything to become that seed of what you believe is in there. You got to be fearless, you got to be relentless.
The more time you spend alone with yourself, the more time that you will be able to understand who you are. When I mean understand who you are, I'm talking about without any outside interference, without any friends, without any peer pressure of wanting to be like someone else. The more time you spend alone, you're going to figure out, okay, what your purpose is. And I say that because of this. God will talk to you. You start seeking in those moments of not having any outside distractions. What happens is things become clear. Clarity sets in. and you're able to make decisions not based on what you saw that day or what you heard that day or what that person may have said to you. You're able to make decisions based on how you feel internally, okay? So number one, we have...
How do you even win in the world today? You win in the world today by ignoring paradigms, by ignoring the rules, by ignoring what the Matrix wants you to do. You win in the world today by being assertive, by being greedy. You win in the world today by being the exact kind of person who can't be told what to do, does what he wants, and always wants more. That's how you become a winner.
The way I describe it to people, when people ask me, like, why does he do all these things? Like, what is the motivation here? I go, he's on a mental journey that very few people have ever been on. Because but people don't understand you, or they misunderstand you, or they purposely misinterpret the way you're living your life. You're trying to understand your mind in a way that very few human beings ever get to understand their mind, because you're taking your mind into these terrible, dark places all the time, and you're trying to pull things out of that. You're trying to learn things about yourself and about your potential from that.
That's exactly it.
And that's what people don't understand.
I study the darkness. You find no fucking answers in the light.